Coming up, I'm going to show you step by step how you can get to a six-figure income. And then our CEOs and leaders finally waking up to the most important thing they need to be doing. And it helps all of us. I'll tell you next. All right, I'm here to help you win at work. You are a professional, whether you realize it or not. If you're getting paid to do something, you're a pro. And I want to help you win at work so that you are winning financially. The more we win at work, the greater we win in our paycheck. And the bigger the paycheck is, the more freedom we have. That's what we all want, the pursuit of happiness. And I'm here to help you get there. And so if I were starting from scratch today, and my goal was to earn six figures and get there as efficiently as I could, this is what I would do. And so I want to walk you through this because this is a magic number in America. You see it all over social media. You'll see it on YouTube. We've got a lot of college kids that think that they are going to make $100,000 when they get right out of school, and boy, oh boy, is that a reality check. And then, of course, because of inflation that has been sitting on us in America for the last couple of years, increasingly you see a lot of griping and moaning and complaining about how you could barely make it on six figures in this country. I mean, I see this stuff. All right, so I'm not getting into that today, but because it is and I don't think it's a magical number, but because it's such a desirable number, and when we say six figures, we're going to say at the bottom of that is we make it to $100,000 gross income, all right? And so everything above that, okay? So how do we get there? Is it possible in America today to start from scratch and actually do it, and do it without mortgaging your future in the form of student loans? The answer is yes. So here we go. I'm going to give you 4 simple steps to understand. Now, there's a lot of work involved here, so I don't want this to feel like a cheap hack. It's not. Because I want to say from the outset, if you do these 4 things, you will make six figures. I could go a step further and say, if you do these 4 things, there will never be a lid on you and your earning potential. Here we go. Step 1. You've got to be self-aware. Because you've got to know what you're working with. In other words, what is the single best talent you have? Now, for this discussion, if you could stay with me, I'm going to separate talent from skill. Let me explain. A child can be born and have the talent of a musical ear, a musical mind. You know what I'm talking about. We could call it musicality. They're just born with some natural music talent. Now you take that kid and then you put them in lessons and you feed that talent with some experience. Maybe they're not just learning the instrument or learning how to sing and use their voice, the instrument, voice lessons, but they actually perform. Now watch what happens. The musicality that they're born with can turn into an absolute razor sharp skill. Great piano player, great singer. So that's our context here when we talk about this self-awareness. So we start with, if I want to make six figures, I've got to start by going, what am I best at doing? Am I good with building or fixing things? Am I creative? Am I very good with communication? Do I have a communication talent that with learning and doing, I can turn into a valuable skill? Remember this, money in the form of a paycheck, I want you to start thinking about your paycheck as nothing more than a certificate of appreciation. There's just 2 people that appreciate your value. In other words, the result that your talent provides. There's 2 types. You ready? 1 is a customer, and then 2 is your company, your leader, because they're paying for you. So in other words, if I was sitting down with a teenager and I was just trying to explain how they're going to grow financially over time, I would say, the more value you provide, the more money you can make. So you got to figure out where I can add the most value. And so once we figured out that, now we have our competitive advantage. In other words, if I'm sitting down with each one of the audience members who's listening and watching me today, and we were just to get to know each other over a cup of coffee, and I begin to ask the question, what are you really good at doing? I'm going to inevitably hear from you that you do some things really well that I suck at. And then vice versa, right? So I could say, well, I'm really good at this. You go, oh, I'm not very good at that. And so as we all begin to get to know each other, it is very obvious that each person on the planet has a competitive advantage over somebody else in an area of talent. Now, we're not always the best, but talent is the competitive advantage. Talent is where we start. So we become aware of what we are good at. Step 2. Now, this is a selection process. So in step 1, we're saying, okay, I'm good at this, this, and this, okay? And so I'll use me as an example because I'm very clear on what I'm good at because I don't have a lot of it. And that's not false humility. You know, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. I'm not good at organization. I mean, I could go down the list of all the things I'm not good at. I'm only good at a couple things. And the things that I'm good at is I read people well. I have discernment. And I'm a decent communicator. I know how to take a complex idea and communicate it in a simple way. And so I would just honestly, that's kind of, those are my 2 biggies. Okay. So if I'm starting out going, okay, how do I then make the most amount of money with those talents? And so I only gave you a list of 2 for sake of time. But let's say you've got a list of 3 or 4 things. Now we're in the selection process. We're going, okay, of these talents, what's my order? Let's order these and go, I think I'm really, really good at this. I'm getting some feedback from people, and I'm not operating in this, fog of American Idol false hope. You know, those kids that go in, they think they can sing, and then they get told they suck and they fall apart. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about real, we know. Okay, so I'm going to look at those top skills, and now I'm looking into all the ways those skills can be used. So where would someone with discernment and the ability to communicate, where would that person thrive in the world of work? Come on, folks, this is common sense, and you can do this, and it makes it less scary. And so now I then want to say, okay, as I begin to look at where I could use these talents, where do I see that I care about this work? I really get fired up. And I'll tell you, folks, the single greatest joy I get out of my professional life is coaching someone. It's not speaking to a large group. It's not doing national media. I love both of those things. I get the juice. I get fired up when I do those things. But the single most satisfying thing that I get to do with the talent of discernment and communication is to coach a person. And I don't care if it's in front of people or not. I've been doing it for years. I've coached nearly 10,000 people on this show or at live events, but I will tell you, I get just as much joy when I coach somebody privately. And I do it a lot in my personal time. I give myself away, and I really love it. I get just as much juice with a cigar and sitting across from somebody and nobody's hearing us. That's what I'm talking about. Where's the satisfaction come from? And so we've got to begin to identify that. Step 3. Once we've identified what it is that we know we're really good at and we really care about it, we've got to share it and share it and share it and share it. And I'm not talking about being obnoxious, but I'm talking about get in the habit of telling people what it is that lights your fire. Best way to do this is always be interested in everybody else. And most of the time, healthy people that are non-narcissists will return the favor. In other words, I meet new people and I say, what do you do? I'm looking at a handsome guy out in the lobby and he's shaking his head at me. And I say to this guy, I meet him and I say, sir, what do you do? And he tells me. And I ask 2 or 3 more questions about what he does. Inevitably, because I can tell this guy is a healthy, decent human being, he is going to start to ask me what I do. And I go, well, I do this, but I really want to do this. And we begin to share it. And as we begin to share it, opportunities come our way to actually do the thing. So we're talking about somebody who may be stuck or confused. And you're going, how do I begin to get in a lane professionally where I make money? So here's the point. No one will know what you want to do if you don't tell them. It's just that simple. Be interested in people. They'll be interested in you. Ask for help. Hey, would you make a connection here? The Proximity Principle, number one best-selling book. It's very simple. I can tell you what the entire book is about. The right people plus the right places equal opportunity for you professionally. So you've got to share. And that excitement and enthusiasm is attractive. Number 4, show up. I started out, once I knew I wanted to do broadcasting, folks, I signed up for a broadcasting class with a bunch of 20-year-olds. They thought I was an instructor for the first couple of weeks until one kid realized I was a student too. I'm in my 30s. These guys are 20. They still got fuzz on their chin. You know what I'm talking about? Never shaved before. And they thought I was an instructor. But one time I told the kid, stop calling me sir. Ken will do. Here's my point. I started out humble pie, and I ate it every day. I showed up to the classes. I kept doing it. I kept getting better. I tried high school football play-by-play on the internet. I once emceed an event at Sewanee Day in Sewanee, Georgia, and I introduced successively, you ready for this? I introduced a balloon artist that made animals with balloons. And after that guy was done, I had to introduce a mime. And then I introduced a bunch of middle school girls doing bubble art. I was humiliated. But I was there because I knew I needed to show up and I needed to put the effort into it to make connections. I did so many little, small, humble, awful hosting gigs. And here's the point. Why did I do that? I wanted to know if I was really hungry enough. Was I willing to do what I had to do so that later, in this beautiful studio, on Fox News yesterday morning, on a stage in front of 4,000 leaders last week, that doesn't happen if I don't show up and introduce a mime. Why? Because it's in those lonely, hard days where no one's watching and you're wrestling with the doubt of why am I doing this? It's never going to work out. And in the midst of all that grit, your heart says, but you still love it and you still want to do it. And that's when we get not just confirmation, but we begin to get the muscle of suffering and sacrificing in the now, watch this, so that ultimately we're thriving in the next. So quick review, the 4 steps, really simple stuff. You got to be self-aware on what you do best. 2, you got to select the right avenue, the right lane professionally. 3, you got to share with everybody where you're going, that destination that you're looking for, and ask for help. And then 4, make sure that you keep showing up and that you don't quit. And let me tell you what happens. 6 figures, it'll happen. But more importantly, it's less about how much you make. It's about what you do and the life that you're making as a result of doing work that is meaningful. So, those aren't your TikTok hacks. So that's how you do it from a guy who did it from scratch. Thank God I'm not introducing a mime today. Hey, high school seniors and parents of high school seniors, it's almost graduation time. And if you're not sure about next steps, I want you to listen to this. Coding skills are essential in today's workforce. And my friends at Bethel Tech can help you start a new career really fast and do it cheap. It only takes 9 months to complete a Bethel Tech course in UI, UX design, full stack development, data science, or cybersecurity. And your young person can get over 1,000 hours of experience in a collaborative environment and then get placed. The average starting salary for a junior developer is $66,000. And the field is projected to grow by 22% over the next 5 years. Software development is a career with an enormously bright future. And right now, Bethel Tech is offering you 10% off if you watch or listen to the Ken Coleman Show and you pay cash. So go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman, betheltech.net/Ken Coleman right now for details. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, what if I told you that in 20 minutes or less, with a follow-up 45 minutes, so 65 minutes total, what if I told you in 65 minutes that you could absolutely get clear on your professional direction. Would you believe me? Well, I can back that up because hundreds of thousands of people have taken the Get Clear career assessment. It measures three things. It's not a personality test. It measures what you do best, what you love to do most, and the results that matter deeply to you. And we put those results after a detailed report into a purpose statement that becomes a high-level job description. And then I wrote this small book. It takes about 45 minutes to read. If you read fast, you can do it in 30. Because all this is a guide on what to do with your purpose statement. How do I take this purpose statement, professional purpose, direction, and actually get there? So the assessment and the book, find the work you're wired to do, answer the 4 questions everybody wants to answer. Who am I? What do I want to do? Where can I do it? How do I get there? So available now, kencoleman.com. There it is. And great gift, by the way, for the graduate in your life and certainly for anybody who's struggling. Okay. I am deeply, deeply passionate about 3 things that are allowing you to win at work. Number 1, I've got to be growing personally. The better I get, the bigger my paycheck gets. That simple. Number 2, I want to be advancing professionally. I want to move up the ladder. The higher I go up the ladder, bigger the check gets, the more influence I have, greater autonomy and freedom I have. And then as I move up, I will need to lead. In the American workplace and largely around the world, if you get 2 or 3 promotions, at some point you're moving into a management role, whether you like it or not. Separate topic. We won't get to that today. But we have been talking about this. And so one of the big rubs and tensions in the workplace today is that we are promoting people, and that's good. People want a nice, sexy title. They want a bigger paycheck. But sometimes the way we do this is we advance them into a leadership position that they don't want and they're not trained to do. And this is a real tension for people. Because here's what happens. And this is the context for this article and some of the data I'm going to share today. Who among you right now, we got people in the lobby watching, listening today, those of you that are listening, watching, wherever you're listening, however you're watching. Who among you, if I'm your boss, and I come to you and I say, hey, you're doing a great job. We've noticed it. And we want to promote you. And so we're going to promote you into this management role or this leadership role. And it comes with X amount of bump financially. Now, who among us today, gather today, however you're listening, wherever you're listening, who says, well, thanks, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Whose first initial reaction says that? Nobody. Now, here's what happens. The initial reaction is we feel good, we feel wanted, and we go, ooh, I like that check. And then some of us, many of us may go, ooh, in the pit in the stomach, but that means I got to lead. I don't want to lead people. I just want a bigger paycheck. Come on, is that resonating with anybody? Of course it is. But now here it comes. And you've heard of the golden handcuffs, an old phrase that would describe somebody who's like they want to move on, but they're making such good money and they just feel tethered. Why do they feel tethered or chained to the job? Here's why. Nobody wants to tell their close family and friends, I turned down a promotion because I just didn't want to lead. Nobody wants to say, I left because I didn't like it there anymore. Because it's like, you make such and such of money and you've got great 401k and all this stuff. See, so we don't want to deal with that. So here's the real root of that. What's behind that? Or what's deep, deep, deep below? Here it is. It feels nonsensical, moronic, stupid, boneheaded, pick your adjective, to turn down a promotion. Even when your head and heart says, I don't think that's right, but it's a paycheck. So what do? We put a smile on, we fake the enthusiasm, and we say, I'm in because of the paycheck. But here's what happens. We as humans, we adapt very quickly. And the high of the paycheck bump wears off. And after that wears off, here we are in a position that we never wanted or we weren't trained for. And this is a leadership development problem. So that's our context for this data. And I think this is good news. And again, I'm speaking to professionals here. You may want to lead one day, or you realize you're on your way to leadership because of your promotional path, or some of you have been recently promoted and you're in a leadership role and you weren't developed and you're like freaking out because you don't know what to do. Listen to this data. This is fascinating. And then for leaders, I'm going to tell you, if you've never been taught how to develop people, I'm going to help you develop people even though you weren't developed, okay? So there's some relief coming. Here we go, real quick, couple pieces of data. This is from an article here, and this is a new survey from Vistage, an executive coaching organization. They surveyed 1,700 CEOs of small and mid-sized businesses about their priorities for their leadership teams this year. Here's the good news. 59% said they're investing in development. 42% said they're promoting team members. And 41% said they are enhancing their succession planning. Now, this data comes amid the fact that we just saw the job report come out, and we are now seeing hiring for the first time in about 2 to 3, well, let's call it pre-pandemic. My gosh, I can't believe how time has flown. Let's go back 2019. We're seeing, and it's before that, we're seeing hiring begin to slow. We saw a massive boom in hiring during the pandemic. So this is pre-pandemic. You don't count the pandemic years because it was just bananas. So we're starting to see hiring slow. 20% of CEOs said they've identified successors for key leadership positions within their company, and 15% say they've even identified their own successor. So all of a sudden, here's what we're seeing. Leadership development is becoming a high priority for leaders, and that's great. And I think they're beginning to see that for years, we have just organically, hey, good job. You've been our top salesperson. So now we're going to promote you to sales manager. And the salesperson is going, I don't want to be a manager. I just want to freaking do what I do best and sell. Happens all the time, by the way. And so now you sacrifice your top talent all because you didn't know how to promote. And if a promotion is necessary, they are the right one, you got to develop them. So 3 quick points. I shared this. I'm just going to pull this from a talk I just gave in Dallas to 4,000 leaders. I love that we're seeing the data here that says companies are now going, I need to develop leaders. How do you do it? 3 ways. You ready? And this is a formula for growing leaders. Number 1, you have to create the right environment. You have to create a healthy environment. Here's what I learned from my first job. I was 14 years of age working in a greenhouse. I had to scrub the greenhouse and get it ready for the next season of plants. Short lesson. Plants, like leaders, need the right environment to grow. Here's a maxim. Leaders, listen. If people don't want to be there with you, they won't want to lead there with you. So we've got to create a healthy environment where people want to be there and they feel like this is a place to grow. That leads to the second point. Now we got to do a good job of selecting leaders. If you were to throw it out like an elementary school class, remember the teacher would ask for a volunteer and all the hands would go up? And you remember we would do, the person that would do this and they were hopping in their chair and they were trying to show their enthusiasm for the teacher. You're going to see a lot of people do that when you start asking who wants to lead. But in the selection process, you've got to be discerning leaders to make sure that it's not a person who just wants the bigger paycheck and wants the promotion. You got to find out, does somebody actually want to serve people? Because leading people is serving people. And I got news for you, newsflash. Leading people sucks a lot because people suck. That's just being real. I got people nodding their head big time. You lead people, sir? He knows. And listen, the greatest thing about leading is people. The worst thing about leading is people. And so understand when you're signing up for this, this is not some, sizzle roll where, I just get to walk around looking like a leader. No, real leaders are bruised. Am I right? Real leaders are scratched. Real leaders are dirty. It's dirty getting down in there, right? And so understand that. And then finally, third thing you've got to do to grow leaders. We talked about we've got to create the right environment where it's healthy, where people want to stay and people see an opportunity for growth. And then we want to select the right people to lead in an area where I actually need some leadership and it's the right fit. We're going to match them up. Okay, that's the second point, is selecting the right leaders. And once we've selected and chosen the right leaders, there's a third and very important step, and that is to nurture them, to develop them, and that is the whole theme here. We're talking about you got to develop leaders. I like to call this the Mr. Miyagi principle. If you've never seen Karate Kid, the original, and you're a leader, you should watch it. And I want you to watch it through the lens of imagine yourself as a leader who is tasked with developing leaders, and I want you to take on your Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi takes Daniel-san under his wing, and he begins to show him how to fight. And he does it with he takes him out to his old classic car, and he teaches him how to wax on, wax off. And then he's got to paint the fence, right? And he's doing this, and he's not doing it right. And Mr. Miyagi comes out, and he goes like this. And Daniel's like, what are you doing, man? I need to learn how to fight. I'm getting my you-know-what kicked every Friday night. Mr. Miyagi is slowly developing and teaching him, showing him how to fight. And you're going to have to show people how to lead. So this is good news that we're seeing a focus on developing leaders. I think it's the single biggest factor to make the workplace better is to get intentional about it. I'm here to help. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Glad you're here. If you're enjoying the program, help us grow. You can do that two ways. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that little thumbs up button below the video, subscribe to the channel, and share. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, give us a follow and a 5-star review. I would appreciate that very, very much. Let's go to Taylor, who joins us in Salt Lake City, Utah, for a little coaching session, shall we? Taylor, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. Thanks for having me on today.
You bet. What's going on?
Yeah, so I am, I guess for a little context, I've just kind of been bouncing around. As far as my career goes, I'm 27, looking to kind of really settle down and forge a path forward, but I'm having a hard time just really figuring out what I want, what I'm passionate about, and where I can, put my talents to use. So,
yeah. Do you think,
hope you can help me.
Yeah, I think I can help. Let's kind of get a self-diagnosis if we can.
Yeah.
Is your issue that you've got several ideas and you're having a hard time picking one idea, or is your issue you're having a hard time locking in on an idea or two as it relates to your professional direction? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I never have a lack of ideas. I would say it's more of just figuring out, like you mentioned a lot in some of the things you talk about is getting your head and your heart aligned. So I feel like I can come up with ideas pretty easy, but just getting myself to really commit in my heart and
love it.
Stick with it for more than a few months,
Love it. Okay, I'm so excited. This is a much more fun conversation when that's the answer. So
okay, I'm excited.
Okay, good. Now here's the deal. I'm going to challenge you to the best of your ability, and I'm going to guide you through this, but I want you to turn your brain off.
All right, that'll be hard for me. But
I know. I can tell. I'm talking to an overthinker, aren't I?
A little bit.
Not a little bit. Be honest.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you do. I get it.
It depends on if you ask my wife or not, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get it. That very answer shows that you are an overthinker, and I'm not judging you. I'm trying to make you feel comfortable because you're talking to an overanalyzer myself. I'm a recovering overthinker, okay?
All right.
So what I mean by turn your brain off is I want you to say the first thing that comes to the top of your mind, because that's the heart. The heart shoots it up, and then the brain tries to keep it down. Does that feel familiar to you?
Yeah, I already anticipate your question. That's my problem. I've been thinking about it all week. So
then go ahead and tell me, because you know what I'm going to ask. So why don't you go ahead and tell me the top 2 or 3 ideas that you've been playing with? Yeah.
So I guess right now. This is my heart. My biggest thing is that I pick something, I jump all in, I put my heart there, and then 6 months later I change it. So right now I just I took a new job at a carpentry shop, hoping to get into maybe the custom home building kind of side of things here in the next little bit. But I'm already like getting a little bit disanimated, unexcited at what I'm doing right now. So I just, yeah.
All right. Well, you didn't answer my question. So this is a classic example of an overthinker. I wanted you to give me the top 2 or 3 professional paths that you spend the most time thinking about. You told me you've got a million ideas. I want the top 3 right now, and I don't want some big, long answer you just gave me. I want those 3 things. Give me the top 3. Go.
I guess my first choice would be to
Stop. You're not doing what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
I told you to tell me the thing that pops immediately. You started the call saying you got a million ideas, and I'm asking you to give it to me, and you're trying to go, well, and you're still doing it. I mean, is home construction, being a general contractor, is that one of them?
Right now it is, yeah.
Great. Now that was really easy. So let's say home builder GC, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, give me number 2. I want the top 3 as it sits in your mind today. Go. Number 2.
Lately I've been playing with like financial coaching in some way, just finding a way to help people.
Yeah, I know. Financial coaching. Everybody wants to help people. You got to stop saying that. Yeah. Everybody wants to help people. All right, everybody.
Okay.
That's the whole reason in my Get Clear assessment that we have the missional result at the end. It's the results that motivate me. All right, give me a third idea.
Third idea, I've been...
Just say it.
I've been... So emergency medicine is something that I've been.
Okay, is that emergency? Yeah. Is that emergency room or EMT? You're in the ambulance, or you're.
I'm an EMT right now. I've been volunteering with an ambulance company.
Wait. Time out. You're an ENT. You're a qualified ENT, but you just took a construction job as a carpenter.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been all over the place.
No, there's no judgment. I'm just trying to get where you stand now. Okay, so we've already done the ENT stuff.
Yeah, I'm EMT certified. I just graduated with my bachelor's degree last year in biology.
Okay, great. All right, so
we're kind of looking at medicine.
All right, so let's dive in here, and I want you. And by the way, we got to move quick because your brain will not allow you to move slow. You go slow, you just get stuck. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the people? I give you a 6-figure salary, great benefits. Who are the people? I don't want you to give me a job description. I just want you. Who are the people that you would want to help if I gave you a great check, great benefits, and you enjoyed the environment? You are just helping these people. I want you to tell me the people and the problem that you would help solve and how you would solve it. Now just go. Say it. Who are the people you go, Ken? Okay, I'm going to choose these people. This is where my heart is today. Who are the people you would help? Tell me their problem. Go.
I really just want to help people be more free, if that makes sense. So
it doesn't make sense. Free from what?
No. Yeah. So financial freedom, free from addiction, free from, so that people can live their best lives. That's kind of what I'm playing with.
Where's that coming from? Yeah. Where's that come from in your story? Why do you want to help people get free? I'm guessing that it's the reason that you are a guy who struggles with overthinking. And if I may be so bold, and I don't mind being wrong, but I think you have a heavy, heavy blanket of self-doubt, a lack of belief.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, where's that come from?
I don't know.
You do.
Blame
childhood
trauma. You could blame,
No, go take me.
There's a lot in there.
Take me to the childhood trauma, and I'm not talking super detailed. Just tell me, high level, what you're comfortable telling me. What happened and when?
Just kind of high level. My parents split up when I was young.
Yep.
My mom overdosed. My dad was in prison. I was adopted.
Oh.
At 8 years old, so I've always struggled kind of with that.
Yeah.
With self-doubt because of that, I think. But
yeah, I mean, this is self-esteem, self-doubt bomb, and none of it was your fault. You had no control over any of it. But my guess is somewhere along the way, you feel like your parents were trying to escape you, even though you had nothing to do with it and they both had their own problems. Does that feel about right?
I guess it's more of just like feeling bound by, like that trauma and whatever genetics that I'm tied to people who have failed, I kind of have been trying to overcome that my whole life. Yeah.
Okay, now we got somewhere. Taylor, thank you for sharing this. That takes a lot of bravery, but this, to me, this is more emotional than this is professional. I think you're a guy who has identified a deep desire to serve people who are in pain. And that comes from having a mom and dad who you watched their pain blow your family up. And then you have a whole new family. And you just never felt like maybe you belonged, and you're worried that this ghost of your parents' failure is eventually going to catch up with you and drag you down. Is that right?
Yeah, you nailed it there.
Okay, so here's the deal. Have you done therapy?
Yeah, I actually just started recently because of
Can I tell you, I endorse BetterHelp. Can I just tell you, if you're not finding comfort there, go to BetterHelp. It's all online, and you find somebody but here's the deal. I think therapy is a massive step here to get some healing. And on the other side of the healing piece of the emotional baggage that's kind of haunting you is at some point you're going to have to get to a point where you believe like I believe. And if I could transfer belief in you today, I would say this. You are very talented, and you are a person who cares deeply for people. And I think that whether you're building houses for people and giving them a safe and beautiful home, or you are coaching people on their finances, or you are maybe a counselor in therapy, or maybe you're the ENT and you go back to being an ENT and you realize, wait a second, I'm meeting people in a crisis moment, hurting people physically, but I'm meeting them there. And maybe you realize you keep job hopping because you're looking for something in the form of validation that you aren't a failure or that you aren't going to fail in a job that can't provide that for you. And maybe, just maybe, you get to choose whatever you want to do that helps hurting people. They could be hurting financially. They could be hurting physically. They could be hurting emotionally. I think there's a pattern here that I would listen to, but I would stay in this building job until I figured out what that actual specific path is, or I would go back to being an ENT. And I would realize that every time I'm in that ambulance, or every time I'm putting somebody on a gurney, or I'm maybe keeping them alive until they get to the doctor, like that is a huge form of service. But I think you need therapy before you make any professional decisions, because I think you're just chasing this thing and you go, this is now success, as opposed to realizing you are already successful, because you are.
Thank you.
I'm talking to a guy who's already successful. I'm talking to a guy who has been surrounded by so much failure and pain, I don't think there's any chance you'll fail. So why don't you just trust yourself that your heart is, in fact, okay, and you're a good man, and you just need some healing. And on the other side of healing is the contribution that you're supposed to make. That's what I think. And I'm going to give you my new book, Find the Work You're Wired to Do, and the assessment, because I actually want you to take it. And I think the purpose statement and the detailed report in here is going to make you feel validated. This is The Ken Coleman Show.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.